It is crazy to me that whenever I look up a company that was built or founded in like the early to mid 1930s, 40s, whatever, they are always rooted in being related to somewhat Hitler. Like, it's just crazy how a lot of these companies only got successful because of their allegiance and their connections to the Nazi party. It is crazy. So let's get into this story. For those of you out there who don't know, my daytime job is a hairdresser. So I love looking up things about how certain hair products were designed and made. And one of the first big hair dye companies was L'Oreal, like actually like a professional. It was used in salon. I realized that. I was like, well, I need to find out everything about L'Oreal because that's what you do. You find out one bit of information and then you want to know everything else. So I'm going to put my hair in rollers and take off my makeup as I tell you the story about L'Oreal because it's actually quite fascinating. So Eugene, the founder, was born in Paris in 1981. I can't pronounce his surname, so I will put it up on the screen and you can have a look at that because I'm terrible at pronouncing. Everything I have read and seen, he seemed like a really intelligent guy. He like finished first in school all the time, just super bright. And his parents owned a pastry shop, and so that's what he kind of did for a lot of his childhood, was working in the pastry shop. When he finished school, he went to university for 4 years in the 1900. That was the year 1900. He went to university to become a chemist. And I guess his job would have been, the job he was looking for was to be a university researcher, which was a really good job. Even now it is, obviously, like to be a researcher of anything. But he finished top in his university in his class and he started working in the Sorbonne, a university researcher. One day while he was at work, he had a popular barbershop owner come in and ask him if he would like to help him to develop a hair dye. At the time there was hair dyes, it was a thing, but a lot of French women didn't dye their hair because a lot of the brands were toxic or would hurt their hair, hurt their scalp. So Eugene took this as a sign to do it himself. He didn't want to work under anyone else. If he was going to come up with an idea of making a hair dye brand, he was going to be the sole owner of it. And I guess this is where like the first bit of bad shit happened. Like, he kind of stole another guy's idea. But if you have an idea, you have to act upon it and do it yourself. You can't be giving out your information to anybody else. That's what I took from this whole scenario. He cut ties with this other guy and decided that he was going to make a whole brand himself. And it took him 2 years, which actually isn't that long, but it took him 2 years, and he practiced, like tried the product on himself to make sure that it was safe. And I guess just because he was so smart and intelligent, could spend the time researching and doing everything and being a chemist, like it just made so much sense that someone who was in that industry would know what they are talking about and be able to use it. I actually don't use a lot of L'Oreal products. I went through all my products and I don't think I own a single thing by L'Oreal. No shame, no reason, just I guess when I've been going in to buy something, they just haven't had something that I wanted. I think I'd like their foundations, like the color match ones, but I think I've always kind of seen them as an older person product, I guess. So give me a few more years before I need to start wearing the older person product. So the name at first was called Safe Hair Dye Company of France, and I will put the French of it up on the screen. It was later changed to L'Oreal to combine two words, which was a French hairstyle and then the other one that means halo. So that's how he came up with the name L'Oreal, was a play on two words. So when he first started making the product, he rented out a 2-bed apartment in Paris, and he would have, during the night, he would basically make the product, and then in the daytime, he would bring salon owners in and he would try the product, show it to them, and it became really popular in Paris kind of right away because it was the first product that didn't burn anybody's scalp, didn't hurt anybody. And I guess that's what everyone was kind of wanting for so long. They wanted a product that they could use on their customers without hurting anybody. And dyeing hair, anything to do with women's beauty, tends to take off, especially when it's a new fad and it's solving a problem for women. But I guess in places like Paris and stuff, like it would have become more of a popular thing there a lot quicker than maybe it would have in like Ireland. If this was like an Irish man, I don't think he would have sold it out that quick or whatever, because it was a little bit more old school than potentially like Paris or New York was. 1914, which actually isn't that long since he even went to university. It was selling all over Europe and Russia. It was like a big thing because, again, it was in no way toxic. And by 1930, when like the Great Depression and stuff was happening in some parts of the world, Eugene decided that he would buy up other brands, and I guess to not have competition and as an investment. And at the time it might have seemed like a really bad idea, but long term it worked out. He was also completely against the 5-day work week, having 2 weeks holidays. He was like really against that. Like, he tried to change his business that people would get paid on how much they made rather than a set salary. But laws were starting to change kind of all over the world when it came to this, that people were getting paid. No, they need to get paid for work and then do the 5-day work week, which comes from Henry Ford, which is a whole other video that I'm going to do as well. His whole thing is just fascinating as well. So he wasn't okay with like giving his workers 2 weeks holidays, but he had to. But around this time was the first time they came up with a sun cream, and it was called Ombre Solaire, which was their first sun cream, which obviously sold out because everyone was going on holidays and being told that you need to get sun cream to protect you from the sun. So it obviously worked out in his favor to let everyone have 2 weeks holidays so he could sell out of his sun cream. Around the time of World War II, which brings us back into another company that has worked with Nazism, he joined a political party that was quite fascist and was part of the whole Nazi thing. La Gugla, again, it'll be up on the screen. Where he got backing from everything to do with the Nazism, and that's how he helped keep his fortune up. And it's so frustrating that it's another company that's involved with it. It's just nuts, isn't it? Like when I'm just like looking up all these different companies, and they're just all so connected, because he was involved in that and was involved with Nazism and everything like that. Between 1940 and 1944, the profits of L'Oreal skyrocketed because he had so many allegiance with places like Germany and stuff that he could sell his product to and get endorsements from. So yeah, do with that what you will, but it's just a shame that it's another big company that got a big break because they supported the wrong side. L'Oreal, obviously from this, was quite a pioneer in the beauty industry because they went into all other different products as well. Eugene died in 1957 and left a very successful business. He was a hard-working man. It's just a shame that that bit in the middle is there, but he was a really hard-working man and created a massive company industry, and today is like one of the biggest companies. Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like, I'll pop up on the screen like loads of different companies that L'Oreal, that are under L'Oreal's umbrella. It is a massive company today. But when he died, he had one daughter, but because he was so old-fashioned, there was like an article that said that he said women can have money but they can't have the business. So he left his daughter Liliane a lot of money, and at this time it actually made her the richest woman in the world and the 14th richest person in the world. So she was the richest woman but the 14th richest person all over, but she wasn't handed over the business, she was just handed the money. He just didn't think he was kind of like, women should just be at home cooking and cleaning. You can have all the money you want, but you can't do a man's job and be in business. Liliane started working in L'Oreal at the age of 15, and they kind of make it seem like very humble in a lot of like the articles and interviews I've seen her be in, but she came from an extremely wealthy family. Like, by the time she was born, like, L'Oreal was like a thing. So by the time she was 15, she worked in the factories, and from what I understand is she kind of worked her way up the ranks, kind of working in the factory, doing the women's jobs, and then at the age of 35 she inherited the whole L'Oreal empire. But what did it mean if she wasn't going to be like the actual business person? She was just getting all this money. So that was actually left the business was Francois Doyle. He was left to run the whole company, and he turned it into the billion-dollar company that it is today. And he was the one that acquired all the other companies. There was like 40 companies altogether. I'll put the picture back up here. Like, just so many companies are under the L'Oreal umbrella. It's crazy when you actually see all the companies that are there. Liliane had one daughter. Her name is Francois as well. I heard some people say Francis or Francois. I think it's like the French pronunciation. But Liliane kept a very low-key lifestyle, and I actually remember seeing this like on like MTV, like Richest People in the World kind of documentaries they would have years ago. I remember seeing like Liliane in there because she always looked like an old woman, and people would say it's funny how old she looks because she owns like L'Oreal or whatever, compared to like people nowadays and stuff. But I think that's a whole other topic that I'm going to get into in a different video. But she had one daughter, so her daughter was due to inherit all her money. But in 2007, the reason why Lily-Anne and her daughter became this whole thing and people started talking about them was Lily-Anne, which is the founder's daughter, she started dating this photographer who was called Francois as well. Everyone has the same name. And her Lily-Anne's daughter, we'll say Francis, and then the boyfriend's Francois, just to make it a little bit easier. So Lily-Anne started dating this photographer guy who was a bit younger than her, but Frances knew there was something off about this guy because she knew her mother had spent $1 billion on gifts for this man. But at the time he was a bit younger, but Lily-Anne was also going through some mental issues, and it turned out that she was suffering with the start of dementia. So that lawsuit went on from 2007 to 2015. I'm not sure if he went to jail or whatever happened, because I guess you couldn't really prove if someone was just using someone. I guess there would be like the whole part in it, but the daughter did win. And the mom, Lily-Anne, she died in 2017, and Frances inherited $44.3 billion from her mother's estate when she died. I think it was like half of it or something, and like half went somewhere else. But how crazy, 44.3 billion. This girl Frances must never know what it's like because she grew up with her mom inheriting billions from her dad, so like from her grandfather. So you can just imagine like the life she just grew up. It's just pure luxury, and we'll get into that in a second as well. Francois has lived quite a bougie life, and from the sounds of it, she's actually wrote like different books about like Greek mythology and stuff. Like she's lived quite a plush life, but in today's money she is worth I keep looking at notes here to make sure because these numbers are crazy, 90.5 billion. And in 2017, after her mom died, she actually took over L'Oreal and owns 35% stake in the company. So just like so crazy. She's the richest woman in the world today. Editing Colleen here, just want to put this in here. The richest woman in the world has changed. She's one of the founders or like one of the owners of Walmart, so she's the heiress of Walmart. So I just thought I would add this in. But Frances did hold the title up until really recently though. Today, L'Oreal is in 150 companies, which is no surprising because everyone just sells L'Oreal in like pharmacies and stuff. But it's worth $237.3 billion today. And it, like I said, it does make Frances the richest woman in the world. And it's like another one of them stories. It's just so crazy how it all began to be. It started with a guy that was just, I suppose, was meant to just inherit his family's French pastry shop. He became a chemist. Someone came to him with an idea, and I guess like it's kind of like he stole the idea, but that barber wouldn't have been able to do it without Eugene being able to do all the chemistry about it, and just how L'Oreal has changed the whole world with that if he hadn't come up with it. So it's just crazy about that. But then just moving along, and it always leads back into something to do with Hitler, which is so frustrating and annoying. Done to Francois for obviously her and her mom fell out when she did do this lawsuit, which was crazy. But when I read that she had spent $1 billion on her boyfriend, no wonder her daughter went after the money. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video about L'Oreal. Quick, low-key, quick video. Yeah, super fascinating. I do want to do one on like beauty standards. That's one I am trying to write up at the moment, because throughout this I did see people compare Lily-Anne to brand owners today, kind of like, oh, how can L'Oreal be such a good brand if she looks like that? She died at the age of 76, and I'll have photos of her on the screen as I'm talking. She looks like a 76 years old woman who's never had Botox. So I think it's like one of those things that there's a lot of brand owners and company owners that lie and say they don't have Botox or they don't have certain things done. But it's just the natural progression of aging. Like I'm 29 now, and I just feel like I kind of look like a 29 years old, or like how my face is supposed to look. Like I have like lines and stuff when I move my face. So I think it's just normal. If your face doesn't move and you're at over the age of like 30, it's a guarantee that person probably has a bit of Botox, or they just are really good at not moving their face. But let me know what you think about this video below, and I'll see you in my next one.